Hey guys, so I wasn't actually planning on doing a video today, but then I did a little bit of stretching and workout on the floor, on the mat, and it triggered my memory of one thing that I feel is not maybe mentioned enough in terms of making people aware of, things that we go through as MS patients. I don't think, I just don't think it's talked about enough, and so today I wanted to briefly touch on the fact that so often we want to just tell people it's neurological. It's not muscular, it's neurological. And I think for me, people are understanding now that I've explained it to them, but I hope this video will help those of you who maybe have people that don't quite understand why our muscles are tight, or why we can't do, if we can do one repetition, why we can't do five. Why we can't go outside on a hot day, why we can't go outside on a really cold day, why why the weather affects us in general, why we can go from having fairly bad symptoms to having a day that is moderately bad symptoms or moderate pain, why some days we wake up and we just can't do anything, or why we need to go to bed early some days, or why if we don't sleep we can become somewhat paralyzed. And I think a lot of people see us and they see, the trouble we have with our muscles, the fact that we're weak in a lot of areas, muscular weakness for me in hip flexors and hamstrings, quads, torso, back. Like I have pretty much everything, not strengthened from my bra line, torso down to my feet, including severe nerve pain. So I think a lot of people wonder, okay, why don't those, rubs that you put on your skin, why doesn't that help? And why when you do a few stretches, why then can't you walk better? Or why doesn't it loosen your muscles up to stretch? And the answer is that it's simply neurological. It's not muscular, it's neurological. And by that I mean it's a message that's not going from the brain to the muscle properly. And I think I touched on this in my video about fatigue that quite a few people have seen, but I wanted to touch on it again because I think it's such an important part in understanding MS. When we go to do an exercise, we have no control a lot of times. If we're trying to put our foot in one area and it goes to the other area, that's neurological. If we have the look that we're walking like this because we have no balance, that's not something that can necessarily be improved overnight or through multiple rounds of physiotherapy. Of course it's going to get better, but that balance center, in our ears is triggered from the brain and it's not responding properly. We have lesions in our brain, we have lesions in our spinal cord that simply doesn't allow messages to transmit properly. So instead of a message just going from A to B, it is going from A to B, but along that nerve line there's little interruptions, like as if a mouse has eaten away at our myelin. So that message doesn't go smoothly from point A to point B, it gets mixed up. And a lot of the mix-up results in symptoms like spasticity. So when you see our muscles bouncing, that's not muscular. Yes, our muscles are bouncing, it transmits to our muscles, but it starts and is fully a neurological symptom. For us anyways. And nerve pain, simply neurological. We don't have anywhere where you can say, okay, that looks painful, because the sensory, that triggers pain or triggers euphoria or anything is a mixed up signal, so it's not firing properly. When we look at our muscles and we see atrophy, it's not that we are not mindful of it. Clearly we know. It's the fact that doing one repetition is sometimes all we can do. And if you were to do, like someone without MS, if you were to do one repetition, would that help you? Would you feel that that would be worthy? And I guess that's the question you have to ask yourself. If you knew that one repetition was going to put you into severe pain, and one more repetition would make your body feel tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter the more you did, would you do it? there's a fine line. Like for me, yeah, I love to be able to do what I can, but the atrophy isn't going to go away if all I can do over the course of a day is 5 repetitions of a bridge or 2 squats. So that's what makes it so hard for us, is the fact that we want to do it, we go to do it, we are mindfully wanting to do it, and then we get to the point where, as I do 1 squat, 2 squats, 3 squats, I'm done, is because there's a neurological feeling of tightness, not a muscular feeling of tightness, where we can't breathe. It gets so tight in my torso. After every repetition, my legs have the feeling of more heaviness, more tightness, more paralysis. So when we go to do exercises and we simply get worse, not better after 3, it's difficult for us to really decide, is that enough to keep going? In my mind, I always feel a little bit is better than nothing because it's always triggering the brain. But no, it's not going to get me out of the state of atrophy. So I think it's a really hard thing to come to grips, especially if you've been an athlete. And then when we are in humidity or heat, it's not just a matter of a little bit of tightness. And if we feel that tightness, it's not muscular, it's neurological, because somewhere along the nerve lines from the brain, down the spine, down to the legs, it doesn't like heat. So therefore, the message transmits even slower than it did without heat. And same goes if it's too cold, same goes if you don't sleep. We have problems already with messages getting to the body parts we want to move. And we already have clumsiness, and we already have the inability to basically feel our body or feel where it is in space because of so much numbness. And that is also to do with a neurological symptom. It's not muscular. So when we wake up and we can't move, it's not a matter of massaging our legs and it's better, because it's a neurological symptom. When we wake up and we haven't slept, the messages transmit even slower, just like they do with humidity. So I think I just really wanted to touch on the fact that sometimes when people say to us, just try strengthening it, or just, tomorrow's going to be a better day, or if you do 5 squats today, you should be able to do 10 squats tomorrow. But we don't progress that way. When we do 5 squats, we're then in bed till tomorrow or the next day or the next day after that. So I just really wanted to bring light to that we try really, really hard to be able to do everything that an able-bodied person can do, but we simply can't, because we're not fighting through a weak muscle that can simply be strengthened. We're fighting through weak muscles and pain and symptoms that arise from the neurological feeling of tightness. And when that happens, we can't strengthen our muscles. Therefore, it relates to atrophy. And I think that it's a misunderstood symptom of MS, because understandably so, you see us and you just don't really understand why we can't just strengthen and be better. So I'm going to leave it at that. Just know that a huge part of the MS life and dealing with MS is always dealing with the fact that our symptoms are not muscular, they're neurological. All for now, guys. Bye.